Here's an example of irony. I make a show called Story Mode, but I've never actually talked about story structure. So I'm making a 3-video series, each about a different game, that tell their stories in different ways. This is Story Mode. I'm Mr. Howes, and today's lesson is about plot. A story's plot is its structure, all of the elements that come together to make the story what it is. To organize and analyze these elements, we use a tool called Freytag's pyramid, more commonly known as a plot diagram or plot mountain. It serves as a way to visualize the basic structure that all stories use. The exposition introduces 3 essential elements: the characters, most notably the protagonist or main character, the setting, which is where and when the story takes place, and most importantly, the conflict, which I define as something the protagonist wants but has to work to get. This is where you might also get an antagonist to stand in the way of the protagonist's goals. Once a conflict is established, the rising action begins. And it makes up most of any given story. This is anything that happens while the protagonist is trying to achieve his or her goal. This often includes events called complications that make things more difficult on the protagonist. They can even change the goal of the protagonist's conflict altogether. The peak of the conflict is called the climax. This is the point in the story where the protagonist either succeeds or fails. Usually they succeed, but not always. There are usually some loose ends that need to be tied up though, which is where the falling action comes in. It's basically everything that needs to happen to get things back to normal, which leads us to the resolution, where we get a glimpse into how things turn out for everyone in the end. So with all that covered, let's see what this looks like in practice. I wanted to start with something straightforward and traditional. And to me, traditional means old school. So that's why we're going with the proper classic that is Mega Man 2, which tells a simple but complete story. The title screen gives us the whole exposition. It introduces the characters. The protagonist is Mega Man, the antagonist is Dr. Wily. For setting, we see the city in the background, and we read that it takes place in the year 2000X. And the conflict, there are 8 new robots to beat. It's simple, it's straightforward, and it gets the job done. As I mentioned before, the rising action makes up most of any given story, which in the case of Mega Man is the gameplay. You've got your 8 selectable levels, and 5 levels in Wily's fortress. And there is a complication toward the end. After defeating what looks like the final boss, you see Dr. Wily escape, which brings us to the climax, where Wily transforms into the true final boss. They fight, and Mega Man wins, assuming you saved enough bubbles to beat him. And then the falling action, which is pretty short. We discover that the final boss was just an illusion created by a machine, and Dr. Wily surrenders when he realizes he's been beaten. Finally, we get our resolution in the credits, where we see Mega Man walking peacefully, and then leaving his helmet behind, indicating that the fight is over. Older games like Mega Man are mostly focused on gameplay, but it goes to show, even a simple story can be a complete story. At the very least, it's more complete than the ending of the original Karate Kid. Thanks for watching Story Mode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment if there's any game or literary device you'd like to see next. Class dismissed.